that's not what you have to do. So,
is it freeing for you? Like, what's the thing that you've noticed that's going to change most for you, whether it's personally or how you conduct your business?
well, I feel like I can conduct my business now. I mean, you just said, I feel like I can conduct my business. And when you're in a sort of over-corporatized environment, you sort of feel like, hey, there's a little something, like somebody recently asked me who had a broker's license who's never used it, you know, hey, on your listing, would you write that offer up for me, and I want to, you know, do this or that, and he was kind of getting creative, and it didn't come together. But I came in and talked to Parker, and he's like, well, you know, it's not exactly what we'd like to do here, but we trust you to do the best thing for you, which will be the best thing for us. Because the best thing for you would be negotiating the best referral fee or whatever it is. In a large corporate environment, it's like, no, we got to talk to the manager.
We got to call New Jersey.
We got to call Parsippany, and we got to do this. And, you know, a week later, you know, long after the chance of the deal,
it's too late.
It's long gone, and like nobody remembers what they were talking about.
So let me ask you a question.
Answer your question.
That very well answer my question. So I know of a story that I'm sure a lot of people here don't, but tell us how an ugly jacket started your career.
It was, I thought, the beginning of the end, but I was working for John Douglas Company, which the Santa Barbara office of John Douglas was the redheaded stepchild up in Santa Barbara that was to be summarily beaten. John Douglas was doing very well in the West Side, Beverly Hills, more affluent areas of LA, and they opened an office here. They bought Gino, you know, Patty knows the story. They bought the, you know, Gino Hagen's office, and I went to work there because it was this cool, cozy little boutique, and there was like 18 agents there, and there's a little fireplace in the corner, and I thought that was where you sold real estate. I didn't get that, you know, having a large room full of producing agents is actually where you sell real estate. I just thought that would be comfortable. So I went there and went to an office meeting. I think I was wearing gray slacks and a white shirt and a red tie, and at that time, and maybe still now, the single most expensive piece of clothing I'd ever been gifted, and that was a gray Spanish leather jacket. And a name I won't mention, Carolyn Lepke, was the manager. And she took my training director, Stan Tabler, aside, and he said, that young man will show up in a sport coat or a suit coat with a little finger wag. So Larry Larson, I'm dropping all these old names, Larry Larson had this paisley green and purple late 60s seersucker thing that you could wad up in a ball and stick into a drawer and pull it out and it looked perfectly pressed. Sport coat. So I like to handle stress with a little humor. I slapped that thing on, and Carolyn came back to the office, and it was so uptight by that point with her. People, like, some of the reception would go, you know, Carolyn's coming. Everybody would like sit up straight, you know, like, oh, she's coming. And I popped up from my cubicle with that jacket on. And when I admitted later that was my way of handling a tense situation with a little humor, I was given 2 days to pack up my office. I went to Merrill Lynch, and everybody who was in that office had come from Merrill Lynch went back. Names that we all still know that are in the business. But I went back to Merrill Lynch, and Ed Herron called me in the office one day, in I think 1989 or 90, and said, this bank wants a BPO, and I don't know what that is, but I think you'd be a good guy to do it. So that jacket's been very good for me. By the way, Larry Larson, years later, came to me and said, my son really wants this RIO you've got coming up. And if you make sure my offer gets presented like immediately, you know, just I'll give it to you now. Just help me do whatever you can. Just get that in. If we get the deal, the jacket's yours. I own the jacket.
So we're gonna see that thing framed and up in his office. It'll be a good reminder for everyone.
And people will come in and go,
Elvis was here, right?
yeah.
So now let's talk a little more down to tax and business. You've been doing it for 25 years. You do well with traditional sales as well as, you know, when there's an REO market. Talk to us a little bit about what you do for lead generation. What's your daily ritual and habit?
Management probably wouldn't want to hear this, but right now we're just trying to handle the leads we have. I mean, I think anybody who works really hard at this business and develops a reasonably high volume practice, it just feeds on itself. I mean, I assume, you know, other than mailing, I assume the Linda Lorenzens of the world are not, you know, cold calling, although Ron Wynn does door knock every day. But that's,
he's door knocked me recently.
invited in for a beer.
I keep reminding him I own a real estate company. He doesn't seem to care.
It's a recruiting opportunity. Get into the door, lock it. So really, we just try to, I mean, here's a good example. office was nice enough to run that ad up there this weekend, that picture. I have a listing call Friday, a listing appointment from that ad. I don't know why that ad made somebody call me and go, hey, come on over, I'm selling my house. She sounds like a total whack job, but I'm gonna go list the house.
So when you were building your business, and not talking about the REO side, because that's unique, so not everyone is going to penetrate that market. But when you talk about how you built your traditional side of your business, how did you go about it?
I showed up every day, pretty much 6-7 days a week. I mean, my analogy was, if you want to get by train, you have to go stand on the tracks every day. And I didn't get how people didn't get that. Like, I think people get in real estate sometimes maybe for the wrong reasons, or they get in and they don't think about how it is they need to drive down State Street to the railroad tracks and stand there if they're trying to get by a train. They don't take the steps. I had owned and operated my own business, so fortunately I had some self-motivation. But I showed up every day. I answered every phone call I could get. I did floor time when that worked, when that was, when we had offices that people actually walked into and did that. And I held open houses like crazy, and I made a point of making everybody ask me what I did. I didn't tell people what I did. I went to some seminars, probably Tommy Hopkins, and they said, everybody you meet, press a business card in their hand and ask them who they know that wants to buy or sell real estate, and think, okay, the first thing, note to self, don't ever press a business card. I don't carry business cards. I try to get people to ask me what I do. I ask them what they do, and then I just, sit there and wait for them to ask, or I try to do it some other way, so I'm not like all the other agents that they're seeing at their kids' school and at the golf course, and But I just built rapport with a lot of people and made sure everybody knew what I did and showed up every day.
Have you had a specific means in which you stayed in contact with, you're from Santa Barbara, probably thousands of people.
The way you stay in contact, you just walk them down State Street. Actually, all joking aside, I mean, Dusty and Christine and I were talking about this at lunch yesterday. We went to lunch with Parker and Jen yesterday just to get kind of because I think Parker knew he couldn't ever have my attention if I was in this building because phone, So we went to Silver Greens to have a sandwich, and while we were there, I don't know, how many business conversations happened to that table from random people walking up? 3 or 4?
3 or 4, so taking you there didn't help.
It didn't work. Hey, next time I'm thinking San Ysidro Ranch might calm down no more $8 salads for you, pal.
What about service? I mean, obviously,
Concierge.
you get a lot of repeat business. So
Concierge.
tell us what that looks like. How do you bring the concierge feeling alive with your real estate practice?
The listing that I took Parker out on, listing that I had, and then when I moved I wasn't sure I had. She, older gal, kind of overwhelmed, trying to get her house together. I said, look, what do you need? Tell me what you need. So every day I was getting an email. Got an electrician? Had an electrician to her. A great electrician. Like somebody, she emailed me back, love this guy. Love it. Cool guy. Got a plumber, electrician, tree guy, handyman, movers, packer, organizer people. The emails like every day. And this has been going on for a couple months. But I just really make it clear to her, I don't care. You can call me 24/7, whatever you need. We're going to get this together. And then when I did make the move, and she was a little weird, I said, you already see how I operate. That's not going to change. This is how it goes. This is the program.
It's still a national company.
It's still, well, she needed some reassurance on that, and that's fine, Parker, because I know the story, but I don't know it like somebody who's been entrenched in this culture as long as you guys have. So, and I told her that. Because I thought, I said, hey, I'm going to bring my manager up. I thought she was going to say, look, I don't need a whole dog and pony show, bring, poodle jumping through hoops and all this silly stuff. And I just said, I know the story, but I don't know it as well as I should. She was
It's only been 2 weeks.
right. I've been trying.
So tell us a little bit about a team. A lot of people approach me, and I'm sure Parker, about, hey, I want to build a team. I want to have a buyer's agent. I want to do this. And you, like you just said, don't necessarily know the model fully yet, but one of the things I'm sure you know about the model is that the reason people build a team is because they're not able to service all the leads that come their way. So how did you get to the point where you started building a team, and how does it work? How's the team? I'm not saying how are they compensated, but what's the process with your team?
Well, it started with years and years ago. I started doing more business than I felt I could comfortably handle, and then I had that sort of panicky moment of like, well, I need to have an assistant, and I thought, well, how am I going to make sure I can pay that assistant? How do I, I'm sure you get this all the time, agents come in and go,
All the time.
this is catch-22, I can't go on without assistant, and I don't know that I can go, So, I can tell you this, if you, start doing any serious business, don't even hesitate, just get somebody to work with you. It's ridiculous, and get a licensed person. I know agents that have had assistants, and those assistants have gotten their licenses, and then they've been let go, because they felt threatened. And you and I talked about this at dinner. I want everybody I'm working with to be successful. I want everybody to be excited about coming here. And if that means giving them more leads or helping them with their transactions or whatever it is, I don't understand that model of like, hey, you're there and I'm here and you need to stay there. I suppose they're afraid that that person gets a license and they come up through and then they take your, stupid Rolodex or something. I don't know.
Let's say there's someone on your team, because here's one of the things I see very commonly in LA is, new promising agent joins a team of a top person or existing team. They do well and contribute to that team for a couple of years. They feel like they've learned what they need to learn and they go out on their own. And I know that you're saying, hey, that's good, you want to help people flourish. But let's just say there's someone on your team that you want to keep. What are the things that you would do to incentivize them or instill the possibility that they might stay on your team longer term?
Well, I think you could continue. If they're really successful, I suppose feeding them additional leads would not necessarily help. So I don't know exactly what that model would look like for me. I guess you'd hope that person would get the benefit of having more than one person to work with. I routinely tell people, the reason, like, why do you do this team thing? I'm like, one of us is always available. I would hope that other agent would get it, that would benefit them. The chances that all three of us are out of town, unlike this last weekend. But it's rare. It's really rare to not have coverage, and you really need it in the REO world because you get calls saying, hey, there's a lot of water coming out from underneath that garage door across the street from my house. Can somebody come over? Of course, you'd hope that neighbor would be smart enough to go over and turn the water off the street. But I like telling people, there's three of us with cell phones. Just call us.
So you bring up the REO market. What do you think since you've been through a couple cycles, what do you think the lifespan of this current foreclosure market is? How much more do we have to go until we're in a more normalized market from your perspective?
I'll tell you how incredibly clairvoyant and intelligent I am. I would have told you 2 years ago we'd be completely out of it now. 2 years ago I thought the Band-Aid would have been ripped off and we'd be done. I don't have a clue. There's been some recent negotiations between the big banks and that $26 billion, whatever that thing was, that settlement. And that has appeared to increase the pipeline a little bit of things that were sort of floating around out there in the ether. In some communities, actual shadow inventories. I don't know how much of that we have here. I don't know, another year and a half, 2 years? I don't know. I don't know.
What's the biggest pushback you get, not from REO, but from traditional clients? Like if someone's, is it the price reduction conversation? Is it the listing commission conversation? Is it the why it's a good time to buy now? Like what's some of the most common conversations you find you have to?
I think it's always price adjustments with sellers.
So what do you like to say to that?
Well, I guess it depends on, I don't have a script. I think it really depends on the person and speaking to their motivations. And oftentimes that motivation, speaking of that motivation is, I think at this price we're going to be on the market a lot longer. It's just that. I think it's very dangerous right now to be, unless, depending on the price point actually, if you have a $500,000 lead a home, time may be on your side. A month or two from now, you might get more. But if you have a $3.5, $4 million home right now, I think most of us feel that there's some more room in that market for adjustment. So,
you talk about speaking to someone's motivation. What's your technique to get to truth and motivation?
just listen. They'll tell you. Not in words always, but they'll tell you. Ask questions and then listen to what they say. There's no secrets. It all comes out eventually.
Tell us what you love most about the business.
Oh, it's very new and exciting every day. Sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. I would like to tell you that Christina and Dusty and I have seen every silly, wacky thing that a seller or a buyer or a bank or somebody can do, but every day there's something new and silly.
So just the newness and that energy. And what are the things that, if you could change one thing about the industry or the business up here, however you want to answer it, what would be some of the things you'd like to see change?
Oh, I'd like to see of the, 1,200 people on our MLS roster, I'd like to see half of them retire.
And why is that?
Well, it's kind of the running joke in this town. I mean, everybody, you can't swing a cat without hitting an agent. And I think it diminishes, well, I mean, you got 1,400 members in MLS in a community of, max South Coast is a couple 100,000, 215, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know what I can't do them, somebody do the math for me, but, if you go out somewhere, I don't play golf, but if you go to the golf course, I bet you every third guy's an agent. I think it dilutes the professionalism when it's, okay, I'll answer the question a different way. I'd make it twice as hard to get your license.
There we go. Yes.
I just re-upped my license. My license expired this 16, 2 days ago. And I did it online in 45 minutes. Now, I feel comfortable doing that because I'm kind of in the trenches and I studied the changes in the contracts, and I'd like to think of a student of this business. But I think there's a lot of people who aren't a student of this business who don't take it seriously, and they have a license, and we see them. We get offers from people that would blow your mind. Like you have a license. It makes us crazy. So I guess I'd make it harder to get a license, and I'd cut half the people out of our MLS. And I'm sorry because our dues would go up, but I'd be okay with that.
Tell me, switching gears, what technology are you most using right now? New technology as it relates to real estate. Are you into that? Are you using social media? Are you
Definitely using social media, nowhere near its capability. I'm probably going to work with Tony a little bit on that. I've been doing LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and
with success?
I don't know how you ever really know when you do so much when you're everywhere.
You're not sure where the business is coming from.
I have no idea, and it's terrible. It's terrible even with the money that if you're giving money to Trulia and Zillow and Realtor.com and all these different websites to increase your presence, and your phone's ringing. The other problem is we're not all sitting in our desk with a yellow pad, going, oh, hey, how'd you hear about it? You're in the car, you're walking down the street, you're at Trader Joe's, and I really wish I knew so I could track where those dollars are best spent, but I don't know, and I'm frustrated by that.
Well, that might be a place where some of our systems can help, actually, because I believe that's one of the most important things an agent can do is once they have figured out how to create a business, then to measure where the business is coming from allows you to create a better business.
Yeah, no, I'm certain that Ford knows exactly where their advertising dollars are best spent, but they probably spend millions of dollars on a team of people that tell them where to spend their millions of dollars.
So we have people in this room that have been in the business for just a year, and people who've been in the business longer than you. So for either range of agent, people are always looking to either launch or relaunch their business. So what are some of the key pieces of advice you give to people to help them ramp their business up?
I think it's just the basic stuff. I think you show up every day and you make sure that you're having FaceTime with a lot of people. They know what you do in an unobtrusive way, and you serve their needs. I know this sounds really corny, but I don't get into an escrow and think about a commission check. I just keep trying to address the needs, and then at some point it's over and a check comes, and I go, yeah, that's cool, but I just try to stay focused on what the needs are.
I like to call that avoiding commission breath.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm hoping that you guys would have some questions for Steve. Who has a question they want to ask Steve about his business?
Nobody from my team.
Yeah, right.
Anyone, any questions? Wendy?
So do you advertise on the Zillow and Trulia, and do you do that?
I do a little bit, and I also paid for featured property spots, just to have increased exposure. And it does make the phone ring. You do get leads from those, but I see it more as a listing tool. I think people expect you to spend money marketing, and since I'm kind of overprint, I got to put some money somewhere. So I like being able to say, and it's a little risky, but I could probably take a seller to Realtor.com and have them type up a certain zip code, enter a certain zip code, and I probably would have listings come up in the featured property block. I haven't tried that yet. It could backfire. Hit refresh 20 times ago. Let's try a different zip code.
But you find that helps on listings?
Well, I just tell them. I tell them what I spend. I tell them how much money I spend marketing listings, and they want to see that. You know, I'm not spending like what Dan Edsel spends or something, but and you've seen his ads. He brags about that. He's not shy about the amount of money he's spending, and I think that attracts people. They want somebody who's doing it.
Putting some muscle behind it. Kathy?
I just wanted to thank you guys, Rob, Marker, and Steve for coming and helping to inspire the office, because I think what Steve said is really important, that you need to be focused on business and how you grow your business, and just I guess reminding people how you could be successful with this. So I'm showing up every day.
We're really serious about this,
Yes.
and we're really serious about having fun doing it. So I want to remind all you guys that the reason not to be in some environment where there's somebody looking over your shoulder or seeing what your production is, piles of paper, time clocks, is that I think we're attracted to this because we can be our own bosses.
But then you gotta be your own boss.
But you got to be your own boss. But it's important for us to have fun. Like, we have fun all day. And if you went through my letters of recommendation that I asked for after I closed an escrow, the common denominator, other than, hey, he's accessible and gave me good advice and blah, 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 is we laughed and we had fun. And you got to have fun doing this, or you'll go crazy. You will go stark raving crazy. Because when you deal with the general public and we with a higher volume practice, I mean, I got a call yesterday from a guy saying, I'm next door to this new REO you got, and I think it's got termites, and I'd like you to put up a barrier. and I was briefly speechless, and I, which is rare for me, and I said, I got to tell you, 25 years, that is the first time I've had that call. And I said, I stammered a little bit, I go, do they make those? And I said, I got bad news for you, but I think like twice a year they spin a queen off and they fly around your neighborhood and then drop wings everywhere and they start eating a different house. He goes, oh, I know, we've tented our house. I'm like, that may not be the last time. I mean, how do you even
respond to that?
I'm like, what?
You get an anteater.
Put a wood wall up.
We'll have a 12-foot cinder block wall installed tomorrow, buried 4 feet in case there's subs.
Who else has a question for Steve? Yes?
Other than not using plastic water bottles, what criteria do you use to select the partners in your business, affiliates?
It's all green. No. And by the way, I had a vitamin water on a long drive this weekend. It came in plastic, so I have some Mia Copas. I just have weaned myself from going to Trader Joe's and buying the tray.
Of water bottles.
Oh God, it makes me so
Well,
sad.
the way I decide is, gluten-free products, so.
Is glutton spelled the same way?
Probably.
I'm ridiculously loyal, so when I find somebody I like, I'm like a dog with a bone, I don't let go of it. And I've worked with agents that say, oh no, I spread title and escrow all over town, and I use every termite company, and that way everybody kind of likes me. And I thought, no, I think nobody likes you when you do that. My favorite story is I was trying to close a triplex in Samarkand, and there's a 3-car garage with about 18 inches or 24 inches of dirt that had built up against the wood siding. And at the last minute, the buyer said, we're not going to close escrow until we can see if that's right, because it was Section 3. And I call Rick Escalera, and I go, Rick, do you have a laborer that can go over there and just dig a trench, and then you can poke at it? And he goes, I'm swamped, I don't have anybody. And he said, when are you closing? And I said, we're trying to close tomorrow, that's not going to happen. He goes, show up at 5 with coffee, I'll bring shovels. I showed up at 4:50, and he was done. The guy was standing there, the sun wasn't up, and he was steaming, like he was in a full sweat, standing there steaming, like, you don't need a coffee. He's like, that's fine, there's no Section 1 there. Like, who are you? Like, what? So,
Service.
yeah, I mean, Rick's got my business.
Great question. Yes?
Do you guys have set roles on your team? Do you each handle specific?
Kind of, but I think we're trying a little bit more to cross-train a little bit. I'm probably as guilty of not doing that as well as, say, Dusty is taking on more of what Christina does, or some of it, if for no other reason, so Christina can actually eat or go to the bathroom or leave her chair occasionally. I mean, I think in a perfect world, we could all function independently. But I assure you, there's things Christina does that would take me a long time to figure out. But we all work with buyers, and we all interact with sellers, and so to that extent, yes. But some of the administrative stuff, and the drag about the REO is it's like running a full tilt property management company and then some, because we're doing rehabs too. And so there's a whole component that's not like a regular real estate practice.
Was your question, I thought I misheard your question. Did you say do you work with goals? Is that what you said?
No, define roles.
Roles. Well, I'm gonna ask you the goal question then. Do you guys have set?
My goal is to survive. My goal is to wake up every morning and show up here and try to keep up with the phone calls and emails. Not a big goal setter. I think maybe if things slow down for us a little bit, I might kind of look at it and go, you know, and I've done business plans in the past, and I like the concept. I like, you know, I've talked to, when I've mentored new agents, I like the idea of like, okay, well, how many deals do you want, you know, just simple math. You want to do 6 deals this year. Okay, well, let's back out of that. And you back all the way out, and you have to talk to, you know,
X amount of people.
30 people a day, so you can get 29 no's and 1 maybe, so you can get to one, you know, I mean, I like the idea of that. I haven't had the time to do that recently, fortunately, or maybe not, I don't know. I mean, I think I should probably have a business plan and be mapping that out, and I'll try to carve some time out to do that.
I think Parker would be happy to oblige on that. Yes, Wendy?
Steve, what is your percentage of REOs? Are you like, I always think of you as the top bank owned
Versus regular sales?
versus regular sales.
Oh gosh, it's probably in the 80s or 90s right now, REO.
Yeah.
I really, and I did this in the last cycle too, I always wanted to make certain that I didn't just drop the ball in regular business. First of all, I think it's irresponsible. Second of all, it pays better. The banks hammer us on commission. You know, B of A, if you sell one of our B of A listings, you get 3.5, I get 2.5. So there's incentive for me to do the regular business, especially here. But I don't want to just, you know, well, we're walking down the street of Beverly Hills after I went down last week and saw that office and met with Rob. And he sort of, I won't say sheepishly, because I don't do anything sheepishly, but you gingerly came around the question like, are you going to be able to sell anything when the REO market goes away? My response was, I do well in REO markets and I do better in non-REO markets. So I prefer to be doing, you know, 15 or 20 regular deals a year that are, you know, $1 million or 2 or 3 or 4 versus 50 deals that are 200 to 500, because it's really crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of a type A workaholic and I have trouble saying no. So people call and they want help, we help them.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Steve, do you use only your team to deal with the REOs, or do you have a person that talks to the banks for you?
You're not thinking of short sales, are you?
You mean like a negotiator?
Sorry,
Yes, I do have a short sale negotiator.
you do have a
Yeah.
negotiator. I'm sorry.
And I love her so much, I'm not going to give her name out. I actually had an agent call me and ask me for her name, and it was an agent that I wasn't sure I'd feel good about referring. And so I emailed the short sale negotiator first, and she goes, I actually am getting to the point where she hinted that she was getting busy to the point of maybe not being effective. And I said, never mind then, I definitely am not going to give the name.
And
So.
is she here in San
No.
No.
Don't ask! No more questions! Next question! Next question, please.
You're the man behind the drape.